When we took over the church in 2020, that was a big transition.
We'd always felt like you would be a senior pastor, so we always felt like being here at Sojourn, and then obviously our time at Christ for the Nations as well was preparation for us to be senior pastors.
Let that cart be your pulpit.
We thought it would be something off in the future.
You need people in your life.
Blessing does work. Blessing does help.
God is the one who leads you through transition, and He wants it to happen so that you can be the best version of you that you can be. I'd like to introduce my wife of 26 years. We've been together, 28 years, but it's good to have her because she is one of the reasons why I'm able to have this book. Actually, the truth is like we're talking about transition. Our lives are always in transition. We've transitioned. Our kids are transitioning. Not the transition, which you probably need to take this out, that the world is talking about, but the transition of people's lives and how they interact. Everybody has to do that. We had transition when the kids were little. Then they got a little bit older, and now we're getting to a point where we're grandparents now. That's a big, that's a big deal. So we're first-time grandparents. We have a grandson named Oliver, with our oldest son, and so when we took over the church in 2020, that was a big transition, but also it wasn't just for us, but it also was for our kids and the weight of that and how it affected them. The truth is that Terry and I talked about how the transition affected us, but maybe you want to share a little bit about what you felt and how it affected you.
Well, actually, we found out, I think in November of 19, we had talked about the transition. And at first, Terry had mentioned possibly 2 years of transition. Then it went quickly down to 18 months of transition. And at the time, we were homeschooling. And in 2 years, we would be done homeschooling. So I was very excited to think we'll be finishing up homeschooling. And then we could start with the transition and senior pastoring. And then they said 18 months. And I said, well, that's close to when we're done homeschooling. And then when they said 6 months, I thought, oh, that's really quick. And then they said, what was it, 5 or 6 weeks? And I thought, oh, will we be ready?
Yeah.
So that was a little overwhelming at first when we heard that. And then we had Thanksgiving and Christmas in that time as well. So it all happened very quickly. And then COVID happened right after because we took the church over the first Sunday of January in 2020. And then COVID happened immediately. So we didn't really have a whole lot of time to think through the whole transition once it all started.
Did you have a sense, because we always are dreaming together and walking together, did you have a sense that this would happen, or did we think it was going to be, I want to hear from you, did you think it would be Sojourn or somewhere else? Did the Lord deposit in your spirit or in your heart where we would be, a senior pastor? I've always talked to you about wanting to be one, but did you have a sense in your heart that it would be, or did you I knew that was going to happen?
Well, we'd always felt like you would be a senior pastor. I know Chris's heart has always been to be a senior pastor somewhere. So we always felt like being here at Sojourn. And then obviously our time at Christ for the Nations as well was preparation for us to be senior pastors. And honestly, we had thought for years that it would be somewhere else. Mm-hmm. We did think at one point, we thought, oh, maybe it could be at Sojourn, but really didn't think Terry was thinking about transitioning or retirement anytime soon. Mm. So really wasn't thinking about it in that time. We thought it would be something off in the future, whether it was here at Sojourn or at a different church.
My wife is so incredible in the fact that she is my biggest support other than the Lord and my very, very, very best friend. And she's, always pushed me to dream, but she's always just try to push me to do better. In the book, during the janitor years, when I was the janitor of the church, I'd come home sometimes complaining to her, but I know God's called me to greater things, and I know I'm supposed to be better, and why is this happening? And I would look at her for support, and she would be like, well, until you change your attitude, you're going to always be in this spot. And between her and my mom, they always encouraged me to let that cart be your pulpit. Let those cleaning supplies and the floor. You shine those floors the best that they can be. You're a janitor, but be the best one that you can be. You're vacuuming those floors. Make sure they're the cleanest they can be. Those windows, make sure you can see your reflection in them. Make sure that you can see Jesus in them when you see their reflection. And so that was her support. So she encouraged me in the middle of that to keep on moving. And each one of those places was a transition and moving. But the big part is you need people. Pastor Terry and I talked about this yesterday. You need people in your life that are going to support you, and relationships are going to help you to be everything that God's called you to be. My wife has been, I can say that honestly. I'm not saying that just because she's here. I can honestly say that she's been that for me. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for her, God using her to help push me and motivate me to be the best. And sometimes I didn't want to hear what she had to say. I'm going to go ahead and be able to, that. I didn't want to hear some of the things that she had to say, but I know without a shadow of a doubt, she's going to be honest with me and tell me the absolute truth because she wants the best for me and the best for our family. And while we're talking about our family, we do need to talk about the kids. How do you feel like it affected them? The transition affected them? They were probably they were teenagers then.
They were teenagers. We had two that were out of high school and two that were finishing up high school when we took over the position. And then when COVID happened, we were already homeschooling, so it didn't change a whole lot for us homeschooling because we were already home. And then so COVID helped us kind of to just stay home and homeschool. And then I think seeing their parents as senior pastors and then some of the hardships that we went through, especially with COVID, and then some of the issues that we deal with as senior pastors, it's always easy to backseat drive. And then until you actually get in the position, you don't realize what all is going on or why different decisions are made. And so once they saw things that we had to deal with or things that we had to go through, it was interesting. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it was interesting to talk through those issues with the kids because at their age, it was hard to understand some of the things or why we did what we did or when we blessed people that didn't bless us. And so it was good to talk through those things with them. And there were some great lessons that they were able to learn and that now that they're older, they're able to use those as well. And some of them they don't always understand, but they see how it worked and how it helped us through the situation, and to see us now on the other side, they realize, oh, that worked. So blessing does work. Blessing does help. And to bless those who don't bless us. And so they have seen how that's worked, and they've now started to implement that in their life as well.
How did I encounter God at Camp last year? I believe it was night 3 when Pastor Kevin and Meredith were preaching on the topic of our hearts and how to respond to God.
God really encountered me during worship. I really got to experience His love.
On night 3 of camp, actually, we were having a worship night and just sat in His presence. God just completely broke my heart for His. He brought me closer to Him. And what did that encounter mean to me? Well, it actually meant a lot because at that time, I was really asking God to set a fire in my heart, to do His will in my life, to just come over me and come upon my heart.
That encounter has meant so much because I've joined the worship team on piano, I've met new group members, and I've also joined leadership where I can learn more about Him in a deeper way. This year at camp, I'm asking God to really just help me embrace all that He has and accept and surrender and complete all of His love and mercy for me.
Well, I'm expecting a more intimate moment with God. I really want to just get on my knees and just talk to Him and have a relationship with Him.
I want Him to set a fire in my heart, not just my heart, but the youth's heart, so that we can all grow closer to Him and have a bigger heart for Him. And like I said, break all of our hearts for Him so that we have nothing else but Him.
And I feel like we've learned from each other as well, because you're a great communicator, especially on the stage. And but you also are great talking to people and loving on people, and that's not a strong suit of mine. And so I've had to learn from him. We joke that he can talk to a stop sign. And so when I would walk up to someone, I would say, "Hi, how are you?" They would say, "Hi, how are you?" And we would walk away. What else is there to say? And he would talk to that same person for 30 minutes. And I didn't understand how he could do that. And I had to follow behind him and listen to his conversation and go, "Oh, I can do that. Oh, I can ask that question. Oh, that's easy." And so instead of just talking about, "Oh, come on, stop talking," or "What are you doing?" or getting annoyed, really looking at each other's strengths and learning from each other. And so I'm still trying to get him to learn from my neatness strength, but we'll work on that.
There's one thing that I would say out of this book that I want you to get, because I say this a lot when I'm preaching. Like, if you don't hear anything else I've said, you need to hear this. It would be that God is the one who leads you through transition, and he wants it to happen so that you can be the best version of you that you can be. You know, there's a lot of thought that put into this book. We really thought we needed to write something to put in people's hands that they could refer to back to when they're going through different transitions. Some of the in my graduate classes and different things, I could go back and refer to some of the things that I learned over the course of those 20 months that we were together in school, and what we wanted to do was put together a book that would help aid you through the transitions of your life. And we believe it's important. I don't just want to be writing something just to be writing it. We really want to get this into your hands so that you can have a tool to be able to guide you through life's transitions. We wanted this book to be just like that you would, when you read it from cover to cover, when you picked it up and then you go through a transition again, you'll be able to refer to the different chapters and the different stories and the different images that we portray in this book, so that you know that, number one, you're not alone in transition. Number two, that you are, even though you're in the middle of transition, the God of transition lives on the inside of you. He doesn't change. His word doesn't change, but you'll change. And then number three, we wanted to have this book to be able to give you hope in the middle of your transition, that you would have hope. And so we really want to get this into your hands. I don't care where you are, wherever part of the world you are, whatever, how old you are, how young you are, in between. We believe that this book will help you be everything that God's called you to be, even as you battle life's curveballs and the different nuances of change that come about in your life. Just as Vanessa said, I don't necessarily like change, and I don't like surprises. You can surprise me with a new gun or a new fishing gear. I don't mind being surprised by that. But other than that, don't necessarily like surprises. But the truth is that God, who knows you, who created you, who developed you, he says you're fearfully and wonderfully made. He's the same one that'll help you reach the destiny that he's called you to walk in. So really, get the book, read it together with your family, read it together with your spouse. I'm telling you, I believe that in this season, God is going to do great and mighty things in your life.